Good evening and welcome to another episode of the C-List Villains, your cultivators of the comic culture. I'm your host, AJ. We've got a full house tonight. E-Man, Luke, Beretta in the building, and we've got a special guest, inker extraordinaire, Mr. Jeremy Clark himself. Hello, everyone.
Jeremy, what's up?
Guys, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
What's going on, man?
Well, thanks for coming on the
man.
show, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to start off by apologizing on keeping you guys hanging for a little while there. These wonderful individuals were trying to get me on much sooner, and I dropped the ball on everything. So we were able to make it happen here right before the holidays, and it was a little last second on my part, not theirs. So hopefully, maybe there will be a number of people that watch this bad boy after it airs, or even while we're going right now. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good here.
Well, you're here now, and it's all gravy. We absolutely love the fact that you've even decided to join this feeble podcast. We really appreciate it.
Anybody that's interested in inking and comics, I think is a sure sign in for me. So I'm put me in, coach. I'm ready to go.
Technically, Jeremy's our very first inker too, right? He's the first one that solely focuses on inking, right?
I believe so. Yes. Can't recall any other inkers that we've had.
No, but we've had writers and artists and stoners. Jeremy is our first inker on the show.
Any colorists or we
were trying to get what's her name, Ava De La Cruz, who colored the We Live books. Like, we were trying to pursue her to come on the show, and we just couldn't. It was just too difficult. I was like, that would have been
all
cool.
right. It just means you're going in order. I mean, penciler, inker, colorist. I mean, where the trajectory is the same way that it would be on a book. So
We'll get there.
Yeah, I think you guys are going on the right path for sure.
Yeah. We were talking right before the show. Everyone thought that you were a big hockey fan, but that's not an Avalanche.
I like hockey. This just isn't.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, but this is a local baseball AA affiliate team.
Penguins fan. All right. Hey, thank you so much for joining us, Jeremy. We really appreciate your time. It was very nice of you.
And the interview over.
I follow the Sharks a little bit, so it's like sorry, don't worry about it. Like, the Sharks have done things, but not like to that Penguin status right there. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can all hate on the Red Wings. So
yes, that's funny you bring that up. The very first game I've ever been to was against the Red Wings, and I think it was like their second year. And they needed that game to get into the playoffs. And I was actually at that game, and it was really cool. I was like, yeah, forget the Red Wings, whoever those guys are. Can't stand them.
There's a lot of energy in any kind of sports arena. I think if you've got absolutely nothing better to do and you just need a big energy boost to go to any game at all, it doesn't even matter the sport. And odds are you'll leave there really energized. So,
hey man, I got a quick question for you. Are the Sharks? Is it still that? The teal color with the biting the hockey stick thing.
It's still that. It's still.
Okay. That's the only reason I knew, because back in high school they were a freshly new team, and everyone thought it was a cool logo. But
back then, that's
all I know of them.
Back in the 90s, besides the Raiders, the Sharks actually had like one of the highest merchandise purchase of that era, because of like their colors and stuff like that.
It's a starter jacket era too, man.
Yeah, that's true. It was a starter jacket, and it made sense, right? You get a starter jacket, you get a parka. It's hockey. You might as well get the Sharks. I mean, it makes sense, right? It's cold in there. For all those 2 times a year you go to watch a Sharks game, out in San Jose, that you need that parka.
See, I don't think the fans of comic books necessarily have the same issue. They don't need a parka to go to any kind of comic convention or.
They need the opposite of a parka.
They need a shower, most of all.
That guy always
on the hygiene of the wonderful people come by to see me.
He's always attacking. Hey, real fast before we continue, you guys, let's say what's up to the chat. Our boy Southern Comic Geek is in the house. What's up, folks? He came by to say what's up right there. Our boy Herbs is in the house. Go Sharks. That's right, man. You know what's up, Herbs. What's going on, man? Actual Dracula. Good evening. Good evening.
One.
Two villains.
My mom's did buy me a Sharks starter jacket in the 90s, and I wore it, and it got stolen from me.
How did you get
That's such a 90s story, actually.
How did you get so ghetto on us? My mom's got me a starter jacket back in the 90s. So stolen.
Man, it got stolen. I was skateboarding. My friends and I were skateboarding. I put it down, and then I came back, and it was gone.
Oh yeah, no. You never put your jacket down when you go out skateboarding.
I wasn't gonna get it dirty though. I mean, come on.
That's just a rule.
Jeremy, where are you from? Where are you located at?
So I'm originally from Pensacola, Florida, but I lived in Texas for a little over a decade and kind of floated around the South for a while. But now I live out here in Little Rock, Arkansas. So smaller city than any of the other places that I've been at, but it's slowly growing on me because there's a lot less traffic and people to have to fight the roads with. So I think that's always a plus, and I got no complaints.
Like Southern Comic Geek, I think he's from your area. He's asking, so how are things in Arkansas?
Yeah, so then we're supposed to get a freeze coming in. There's some winter storm coming along, and actually, I'm supposed to be flying out to Texas in 2 days. I'm going to go see an old friend and mentor of mine, Philip Still, who also helped me out in comics early in my career, and I fly out on Thursday, assuming that the plane is capable of doing so.
Nice.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's some winter weather.
See, us Californians were spoiled. It's 48 degrees here where I live, and I'm here like, oh my god, it's so cold. And then I hear like Kansas and Arkansas in the south, you guys are getting like a real freeze, like real bad weather.
No, it happens every year. I think the last year that I was here, I couldn't get the car out for a week. And I think it was shoveling away out there just to try to get everything kind of moving in the right direction. So
most of us are Filipino. We're brown. We're tropical people. We can't deal with that snow. I can't.
I don't. Why do you think I'm going to Texas? I'm heading to Austin. I'm getting as far south as I can, trying to beat the weather out of here.
Jeremy knows.
I know that you were just recently at the con with these guys, right?
Yeah. So I just recently was a guest over at the new Fan Expo San Francisco show. I think it was held at the center that they used to hold
Moscone Center.
And so first time I had been there, I hadn't attended WonderCon in the past when it was originally there. So new demographic, new area, and I was just happy to see all the happy faces that seemed to be intrigued by what it was that I was doing.
You've gone out to a couple of the West Coast, like California cons before, though, right? Because I could have sworn I'd seen you in a couple conventions.
Yeah. I used to attend the LA show, the Stanley.
Okay, I think
once upon a time while it was still kamikaze, and then I did the new LA Comic Con a handful of times afterwards, but I don't get out there nearly as often as I would like anymore. It was a lot easier when I was living in Arizona because it was just a hop, skip, and a jump from there. Where I'm at now, it's definitely a bit more of a travel.
Yeah.
See, so I'm kind of the travel guy here, Hugh. That sounded super douchey. Hold on, wait. What I'm saying is, I like trying and experiencing stuff like when I leave home, right? So while you were out here in the Bay Area, what were some of the things that you ate, or some of the beers, or if you had any beers, some of the stuff that you ate and drank over here that you're like, oh man, this is pretty good. I wish I had this back home. Did you have anything like that, or was it just like like deli sandwiches that you're having out here while you were at the con?
So I think I went across the street. Well, actually, I walked considerably on the first day there because I wanted to walk all over the place. It was my first time in San Francisco, and so I had a buddy of mine that used to live there back in his college years, and so he was just dragging me all around the place. And I remember that I can't remember what you guys call it, but that big giant incline street. Just sounds like it's just going at a 45-degree angle straight up. I know I walked from the very bottom of that thing all the way to the top of it and took a picture from the top facing out towards the bridge that was down that street way there. But I went to the mall. I went to where the ice skating rink was there in the center where the Christmas tree was. And what I really wanted to do is the 49ers were playing the Saints that weekend out there, and I wanted to get out to Santa Clara, but because I kept forgetting that it was California time, I thought the game was going to be at like 3 p.m. ish, and so I could maybe get out of the show a little early and escape over out there to go see an event. And then I realized, no, it's 1 in the afternoon. out where you guys are, so I was like, nope, I can't skip out of a show that early. So there's no way to do that. Otherwise, I would have definitely been at the 49ers game.
That's what our phones are for nowadays, right? I mean, we have everything on our phones. Like, I was walking around the con and just watching, like, all right, what's going on? What's happening with this?
Oh, right, I'm definitely watching it at my table there. So I can rest assured I saw the game in one way or the other.
Are we having an audio issue on your side?
Yeah, I was just gonna say you're kind of cutting it out on my headphones at least. I don't know about you guys.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you're cutting a little bit in and out. Tap the microphone. It's kind of like beat on it.
Any luck? Worse?
Same thing.
Yeah, it's still the same.
Oh no. Well, that's not good. Maybe if I
Oh, there we go.
What are you doing there? Whatever you're doing right there.
I don't know what I did. It's so the problem is I'm on a laptop here, and so I'm using the old laptop mic.
Right.
And unfortunately, it can be sporadic on my end, or it could be something with the winter weather causing some internet activity issues.
That's possible.
Do you have earbud wires that'll plug into the jack?
I do not. I am so old school dinosaur. I'm not a huge tech guy at all, which is probably why I don't live in California. None of it I can relate to.
You can't escape it. Like, wherever you go, you need tech. There's tech everywhere in one way or another. You can't escape it there, Jeremy.
I agree 100%. I just am not savvy to the tech side of things.
Are you a gamer at all? Do you game like with an Xbox or a PS4 or PS5?
Yeah, so I have a PS4, but I typically just utilize it to watch Netflix and like all the streaming apps, I guess. So even in that regard, I'm not firing away. I do play some League of Legends. Is there any League of Legends fans out there?
Ooh, you just missed it because there was a huge League of Legends tournament happening the weekend. Actually, the weekend that we were there at the con, like it was a whole week's event. It was called Worlds, and League of Legends was just this big thing happening at Chase Center where the Warriors play. And it was huge spectacle. Like in downtown, there was this big like event for all the League of Legends kids to go out and just enjoy. Like there was a couple of voice actors that were out there that weekend also for League of Legends. I don't play it. That's not my kind of game, but I know of it.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully the mic issue isn't so great that it impedes the entire process here, because I'd love for people to at least.
We'll make do. We'll make do. We've had worse situations before. Trust us. So.
Why you got to bring that up, man? I mean, God, look, I've learned my lesson. Okay,
I didn't even bring up whatever you.
I did. Look. I couldn't do anything about it. Okay, that was my fault.
Well, Jeremy, I wanted to ask you since. What'd you say, Red?
Someone was stealing his internet. That's why he was running out of.
Oh yeah.
Oh
right.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah. See.
Bandwidth.
Well, Jeremy, we usually like to ask our guests, especially when they're first on, like, how did you get into your career? What was your motivation to continue doing it? And anyone that I guess inspired you to continue doing this art?
Sure. So for me, I didn't start on this path. I think everybody's journey takes a number of different ways. Everybody kind of gets to this point through not necessarily the usual means of submitting a portfolio for review through an editor and then hoping that a job comes about. I actually was pursuing military politics. I was a poli-sci major.
Oh, wow.
In college. And, I just was always fascinated by what art could bring in terms of what was seen in comics and graphic novels and some of that content that I had stumbled across. A good example would be DC's Identity Crisis with Michael Turner covers at the time. And it was a complete series that I could read, and I was just enamored by a lot of the art and what artists could do with lines to make things just always so dynamic and exciting to somebody that didn't necessarily grow up a huge superhero fan. I was always I was a military guy, so I grew up on a lot of military bases, and the things that I was more associated with was cool fighter jets and
Right.
things of that nature. And so I've got the Captain America shirt on. He happens to be my favorite character. Maybe that's part of the reason it's just the superhero that I naturally gravitated to early on. But I ended up becoming really enamored by the inks on original pages. I used to go to shows as a fan, just like probably everybody else that's out there listening.
Were you also inspired by Top Gun?
By Top Gun, yeah, it's my favorite movie. I'm a fighter pilot, but my eyes were not good enough to pursue that. Otherwise, I probably would have gone that route as opposed to this. However, I think when I would go to events as a fan, the thing that I naturally gravitated to the most was the original art portfolios. I liked looking at the original pages, seeing exactly how they were before they went to print, and getting to see that raw black and white line work that really kind of brought me into enjoying that particular part of comics and that making process. And so I think that's probably the first domino that started the effect for me trying to pursue that side of things. And I got real lucky. There was a number of industry veterans, such as Steve Irwin and Keith Wilson, that helped me along, looking over some of the stuff that I was trying to show them, providing me with any kind of insight on how to get better. And it ended up being really useful to me at least to have those industry veterans provide that kind of insight.
Okay, hold on, Jeremy, because you're cut. Okay, so, I'm sorry, my friend.
Like it's static now.
It goes up and then it goes down. Let's do this.
Sure.
I'm gonna do some tech support stuff real fast. We're gonna do the most basic one. Just we'll keep the show going behind the scenes and we'll show some of the stuff that you've worked on. But do us a favor, just go ahead and just do the regular power everything off and then power it back on and then come right back into the show.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what could be causing it all, but we'll give it a shot.
We'll see you in a bit.
Sorry about that, man.
Click the link that we sent you earlier to get back. Okay, there's also still that background noise on your end too. Well,
I hear that too.
No, not me.
Could it be on his? Yeah, I hear that too.
Hold on. I think he's just trying to shut down.
Well, we're live, folks. This is what happens when we go live.
Oh crap! Hold on.
Well,
that background noise is coming from Luke.
How do you?
Because I'm pausing. I'm muting Luke.
Oh,
and I don't
okay.
hear anything. I unmute Luke. Oh, it's Luke. There's a
Are you
snowstorm
running the
going on in the
dryer?
back.
Oh, that's my heater.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Oh,
Okay. All right. Well, that explains that. Um.
Well, why don't we show some of his art?
Yeah, I was
there
gonna
we go.
say
There we go.
that's a
So-
handsome dude, though, dude. Like he's a good. Like I'm jealous. Like this is supposed to be our show, but that's a handsome dude. He's an inker, and he's got a freaking headshot. Like that's the kind of hairstyle like everyone I know I want. Like I wish I'd had that kind of head, to be able to pull that off, man.
He
I'm jealous.
placed it on the gas test curve.
Yeah, we'll blame it on the guest. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
All right. Here we go. Let's see.
Yeah, Red. So what are some of the things that Jeremy has worked on?
I know he's got on his packet that he gave us. He's done the Deadliest A, which is for image. Let's see, gargoyles, and the Last Ronin. He's done the that cover for issue 1. Let's see.
That's so sick. And I'm definitely going to ask him when he comes back in. But like, an inker's job is just as artistic in my head as the penciler, because they're the ones that bring out a lot of the contrast of the image, right? They're the ones that add the blacks when the blacks need to be added, like the most, to bring in shadow, shade, and
Yeah, the
bring
shade.
in
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a little bit racist, though. They need to add the blacks when they need the blacks the most.
Only you would say that, Red. Only you would say that. Jeremy's back. There you are, brother. Mic check.
Mic check. 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
Check.
perfect. That's great. Yeah.
There
I
we
don't-
go.
I don't know
Yeah,
what
it's a lot
I don't know
better.
what I had to do, but
Oh,
I'm glad we are back in one piece.
All right, you wanna go back and like repeat the whole thing what inspired you, and then we'll go from there.
How much of it did you hear?
And we heard you were inspired by airplanes and going to air shows. I think what I heard, and then I asked you if you're inspired by Top Gun, and said, well, that was the most thing that inspired you. And
Yeah, so
I'm gonna follow up if you also watched that series on I think the Learning Channel or the Discovery called Wings, where they had just mainly focus on jet planes.
on military aviation.
Yeah.
No, so I grew up on a lot of military bases, both here and abroad. So I say I'm from Pensacola, Florida, because that's where we were stationed the longest, and then where I my youth was spent. So otherwise, I think I bounced around so much that I don't think I'm technically really from anywhere other than all the places that we were stationed. But no, that's kind of the thing that I wanted to pursue. I wanted to pursue being a pilot, and I ended up going to college as a political science major, and I wanted to do the politics of military force and things that were all related to that side of things, and just didn't pan out for me. And so I, as a fan, while I was in college, I would go to comic conventions, just as a regular attendee, because I was really fascinated by all the artwork that made up comics, and I wanted to see all the original pages in person.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what drove me to want to be an inker, because I noticed more and more I didn't really care about what the finished color product looked like at the end of the day. I was much more intrigued by just the raw black and white inks and line work, and how they were able to convey certain textures and effects without traditional without any kind of digital manipulation on those pages. And I think that is what I found to be really intriguing, and part of the reason why I decided to pursue that as opposed to any other type of job.
Sorry, I think that background noise is coming from me. There's a helicopter.
I was like, oh no, is it the mic problem again? Is it 2 times in a row?
More than a helicopter.
This whole time, were you already like doing any sort of like inking on the side, like for fun or drawing or anything like that?
No, so I tell people all the time, I would doodle a lot, as one does. I think when they're bored in school or class or anything else, and I found out that there was this dichotomy of jobs, between a penciler and an inker and a colorist, and everybody had this very specific skill set and role to play in making this single book that you would see. And at first I thought it was just all one person doing, everything, and that's just how it went. But once I found out that there was this, very linear breakdown, kind of like an assembly line type process to making the books, I kind of honed in on what I was most interested and intrigued by, and then went ahead and tried to figure out, well, how does one do that? And how does one pursue that in a way that, even if it was just for fun, it would be something that I could do when I wasn't doing the political science stuff.
Right.
So
And that's good because that same idea can be applied to a lot of things, like everyone can have their every day, everyone can be going to school, they can do, but then everyone's got that hobby or that one thing that they really enjoy, like I like editing. I want to look more into how to edit videos. And you just kind of like verified something in my head where it's like, if there's something that interests you, really look into it. If you're interested in actually putting in the work, look into it and see what it takes to be that. You pursue being an inker. And in my eyes, like you're following your dreams, and I think that's amazing. And I really commend you for something like that. I really do.
Is the one goal really to replace Scott Williams, Jim Lee's inker?
So I actually am quite fond of Scott's inks. He was definitely one of the guys that whose work I would look at when very early on. There was a number of other inkers too, though. If you want to go all the way back to Joe Sinnott, he had this really wonderful brush, really consistent line. I mean, even up into his 90s, you would see some of his commissions into his 90s that were with ink, and he'd still be able to pull, a brush line just as good as any of the young guys to this day. And well, obviously up until the point that he passed. But needless to say, there was guys like Joe Sinnott, Danny Mickey. I really liked. I liked Danny Mickey over Joe Quesada. There was a number of inkers, Richard Friend, Kevin Nolan, a lot of really great guys that could just really transform what was already there. And that's honestly what an inker's job is. It's to embellish and build upon an already great foundation and try to put just a little bit extra in there to help take it to that finish line for the actual final rendered product that you guys see in the book. Sometimes I use the analogy that, pencilers are like an architect. You can have this really wonderful. You guys are out in Cali, so all those big mansions that you guys got going on out there, they're fantastic to look at. Even before anything's put into them, they're fantastic all on their own. But then they don't really become a home until you get all the little knickknacks in, the furniture, the whatever on the walls. And so I consider an inker's job like that interior decorator. Take that already beautiful structure that you have with the mansion in this analogy and transform it even more to turn it into that home that you really can appreciate at the end of the day for a very long time. So then everybody always asks, well, what's the colors then? and my joke is, well, he's the landscaper that's got to bring a little bit of color and life to the rest of the plot of land. And so it's all fun at the end of the day, but everybody has a very specific skill set, and hopefully all that talent combined can culminate into a very amazing product that you guys can hopefully enjoy at the end of the day.
We got a question from the crowd. Southern Comic Geek wants to know what happened to that Cowboy Bebop cover that just never happened. Can you talk about it?
Yeah, no, I can talk about it. I'm still a little bitter about it, but I can absolutely talk about it.
Blame the chat for this one.
No. So I was working with penciler Raymond Gay, who I had worked with on the DC Punchline cover, who I worked with on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and a number of the other books that you guys may have seen and enjoy today. And we were assigned to work on a variant cover for issue 1 of Cowboy Bebop that was going to be released in conjunction with the Netflix TV series. And it was quite a long process. In fact, I stumbled upon the contract that I had to sign for, because it was going to be through Titan Comics and Netflix. It was a dual kind of collaboration type thing, and Titan's out of the UK. So we signed a contract to work on this cover for issue 1. It was going to be in conjunction with a store named Cajun Gamer out of Louisiana, and went all the way through all the pencils, got approved, greenlit from Titan and Netflix, went through then to me all the final rendered ink work that got sent off to both Titan and Netflix, as well as the individual actors themselves. So each of the actors' likenesses that were being used had to be signed off by the actors themselves. And so that was pretty cool, because we knew then that they were seeing the art, right? It wasn't just like this kind of manufactured type of process that may have had some pushback, but everybody seemed to really dig it. We, I know that the actors, I don't know their names, but the male actors all like really quickly gave it a green light. And the female actress, she didn't like something regarding her cheekbone. I'm like, what if it was a profile shot? And so we had to go back. The colorist had to go in and edit to accentuate her cheekbone a little bit more. She wanted a more prominent, I guess. And then that went through all right. And then the show got canceled. And so we had all the approvals. I had all the Netflix emails and everything else, all the nice little check marks and the nice comments, and then all of a sudden, which one was she? She was the one that played Faye Valentine.
Yeah, Daniela Pineda.
She had a little pushback because she didn't think her cheekbones were accentuated enough in the image, and I was like, it's a profile. There's only one cheekbone. So it was kind of interesting, because the way that the structure of the cover was is it had all the main characters featured there, as well as the dog. And so it was like everybody with the jet flying by, and it was a really cool image. And needless to say, the show got canceled, obviously, and anything that hadn't already gone to production, like the art germ cover and things that were already through on that initial first wave, we got word that they weren't going to print it. And so I was like, oh, well, all that work ended up being in a way not really enjoyable, because I remember I had a really tight deadline on the inks, and I had to cancel a appearing at an event to ensure that I would meet the deadline in time.
Oh man!
And so not only did I not do that event as a result of doing this thing that I thought was going to be really big, but then that didn't come to fruition either at the very end. And so it's not even all about my feelings on it. It was the whole team. Everybody worked really hard. I know Raymond was super excited about it. He was a Cowboy Bebop fan initially, and so everybody from the penciler to myself and to the colorist, we all ended up filling the burn on that one. And it's just unfortunate when things like that happen, because it feels like you invested a lot of time and effort and didn't necessarily see the outcome that you wanted.
You can blame the original Cowboy Bebop fans for not liking the show because it's not to their expectations.
I think they did the best they could with with what they thought was going to be commercially accepted. And there's this balancing type wire act that everybody has to play, trying to appeal to a wider range of audience. And I get it. I mean, I enjoyed the anime quite a bit, as well as the animated movie.
Yeah.
But there were elements of the live action, because I did watch, I think, like the first 4 episodes of it. And then I was so scorned by the whole ordeal. I was like, I'm not watching the rest of this. Needless to say, I thought they did certain things well, and then there was obviously things that people that are diehard fans were not going to appreciate because it didn't.
Yeah. I wouldn't call myself a diehard Cowboy Bebop fan, but I was a fan when it came out. And then comparing the show, the anime, to the live action, it really didn't, in my perspective, my opinion, it didn't have the same feel. It didn't have the same type of tone that the anime had.
Yeah, I think that they were trying to make it, I don't know, like I said, maybe more widely accepted by a wider audience who may not have already been pre-built in to that type of franchise. And I just don't think that they appealed to their core audience enough, and that's kind of maybe why that happened.
Rarely do things carry over when they cross over well, right? I mean, like whenever you take a video game and turn it into a movie, it never really does good. Or if you ever take an anime and turn it into a live action, it just doesn't do good. There's a certain magic that is captured in that medium of that property that you just cannot replicate. And that's one thing I kind of wish people stop doing, is try to replicate the magic you get from a video game or from an anime or just from like any kind of property. You're going to get some hitters once in a while. You're going to get Marvel, you're going to get the MCU, you're going to get some decent DC movies here and there, but you just cannot capture that magic. And I think that's what happened with the Cowboy Bebop show. I thought just like you, the first 4 episodes were not bad. I actually kind of liked the show at the end. I gave it a 7 out of 10, which to me, it's watchable. I'll do it. But I also saw the mistakes that it made, and it just didn't capture the imagination, because we've already seen Spike at his best. And if we're not going to get that same attitude and that same fighting style that we see in the anime, in the live action, is just not going to carry over well. And I think that's what happened with that one right there. You just can't do it.
Well, it was certainly no Ronin Kenshin. I liked that adaptation of the anime and manga over to the live action that Netflix did there, and it ended up being rather successful. But that's an outlier, as you said. It usually does not happen. The Bleach one was terrible.
That's not even go about Bleach.
The Death Note one was terrible.
Oh my god!
I think I've got not enough fingers to count all the terrible ones.
What about the Full Metal Alchemist? That one was
so there's a lot of ones that obviously miss, and then if you happen to somehow hit the mark, I think pat yourself on the back because nobody's doing it.
Yeah, Avatar and Dragon Ball, I think, were like those were the worst ones out of like some of the best properties. Yeah,
I remember years back. This is maybe at least 10, 15 years ago, right after Death Note had finished. There was talk of Leonardo DiCaprio. They were bidding on adapting it. And I was like, dude, if he does that movie, it's going to be good. And then I don't know what happened, because then all of a sudden it went to Netflix and it was just a hot mess.
Yeah, I mean, and it happens, but unfortunately, in this particular case, it directly affected something that we were working on, and hopefully that answers that guy's question. That's the very long-winded backstory on basically something just not panning out.
Let me ask you this, Jeremy. So, on average, how long does it take for you as an inker to ink a whole page? Like, is it like a page a day? Is that kind of like how it goes, or like how?
Well, you gotta
Yes.
practice that with. Is he a traditional or digital artist?
You know what? These are all good questions. So we'll start first with Villainous Red. I'm a dinosaur, like I stated earlier when it came to the tech stuff. So I am entirely traditional. In fact, to my left here, I know you can't see it, but I have a big drafting table and brushes and inks and the whole shebang there. And that's where I work every day that I'm here. And I usually spend when I'm working on deadlines, easily 10 hours a day. So depending on the complexity of the piece and the tightness of the deadline, it could be more. But if you were doing sequentials, you definitely want to average a page a day. But I haven't worked on sequentials in almost 7 or 8 years, I think.
Oh wow.
At this point. So for me, it's a little different because I work predominantly on cover assignments. I know that that's the first thing that anybody's going to see, whether they're walking into a comic book store or seeing it online or whatever through in diamond previews. So I want to ensure that whatever they're getting is as clean and crisp as I can possibly put out. And so I have a very slick, it would be considered a slick kind of style of inking, and it just goes back to those guys that I enjoyed looking at when I was trying to break in and learn the process. They all had a very consistent, clean, slick line that seemed to really provide some nice bounce and energy to the pages that I was looking at, and so that's kind of what I emulated. But to answer your question, email in terms of the time on covers. Oh, is that a helicopter or is it my mic?
That's not me. That's not me.
Oh no, is it my mic? Or are we still
I think
good?
you're good.
You're good. You're good. Yeah.
I get worried now every time. I'm like,
What's that? What's going on? Hold on, wait, hold on.
Red team go! Red team go!
So no, for me, on cover assignments, I generally like to have 2 to 3 days to work on them because I really want everything to be really clean and precise and try to make it as easy on the colorist as I possibly can to really get that final rendered product to everybody's liking. So I know that that's my process, but I'm also known as being a slow inker. And I don't mind admitting that. I'm definitely on the slower side. And I was told early on when I was trying to pursue this industry that you had to be at least a minimum of 2 of 3 things to be successful. And they said basically you either had to be fast, good, and nice. And I knew I was never going to be fast. So I tried to be as nice and as good as I possibly could because there was no way I was going to hit the trifecta on, on how to be successful here. So, I definitely provide as consistent of work when it comes to inking as I possibly can, regardless of if it's a small indie project or as big as a big 2 cover. I want the consistency to be there so that people understand that they're going to always get that type of a quality product when I'm assigned to that work.
Awesome. There is a question. I don't know who. One of us must have typed it. It wasn't me, but
Hold on. Don't put it up. Red ask. Don't type it and then have one of us ask. You ask the question. This is your question.
Do you have any original art laying around? If yes, can you show some? And are they for sale?
Yeah. So I still have a number of original published covers that I've worked on, including the brand new. Actually, I wonder if I can bring it up. Is there a way for me to share my screen on here? I wonder.
The bottom portion, there's a.
Do you have the present button on your screen?
Present.
I do have the present button. So give me just a second, guys. I know this is a bit impromptu, but I think this will give people also a good idea of what I'm describing when it comes to pencils and inks, which is kind of what we're discussing here. So maybe they'll include
As I was asking that question, I saw Luke smile. I was like, all right, there's something for me to buy.
yeah. So tell me when you can see my screen. Let's see if this works.
Since we're on the subject of like original art for sale, I've always been curious about this. Typically, does the penciler send you the original and you ink over the original, or I hear like they send you a rendered like blue line? So I've never really understood what all that means.
Thank you for asking that. I was going to ask something similar.
Yeah, so the process has changed some over the years. Originally, back in the day, you would FedEx, the penciler would FedEx all the pages, directly over to whoever the next guy in line was. And then nowadays, in the digital age, it's all about speed and time now, right?
Mhm.
So you
Yeah.
don't want to wait a couple days on FedEx pages that may or may not get lost or delayed. So now pencilers will just send you a high resolution scan of the pencils. So I don't know if you can see my screen or not, but this is an example here of some pencils.
Mhm.
This is from Chris Campagna was the penciler, and this was for a brand new book that comes out next week in all your LGSs. It's for Deadliest Bouquet #5 for Image, which features Spawn here on the cover. So cool character for those of you that are Spawn fans out there. And so this would be an example of the scan that I would receive, right? So I don't know how clear it comes up on the screen for you guys, or how much
it's pretty
detail
clear.
you're
It's pretty clear.
getting.
Yeah.
Excellent. So then if I go here and I show you the inks, this was the difference between the pencils and the, if I can get it to work, inks. So it's my job to take what's there and add whatever little minute details or clean things up, or just make sure that I have really consistent feathering or cross hatching, or emulate a particular texture or provide some more depth to the image through line weight or what have you. And so I would do these inks traditional. I would take the scan that I received from the penciler and then convert it to non-photo blue line, and then print that non-photo blue, so this version in blue, onto my boards. I like to utilize Eon HD Plate 130 smooth boards. That's just the board that I like to ink on. And then after I'm done inking it traditional, I would then scan those traditional inks in to the computer, and that would get sent off to the editor that's overseeing the project. So in this case, I think our signatures were down here on the grave. And that editor would then send it to the colorist, or I would send it to the colorist directly. And then that colorist works off of the ink scan, and upon completing the colors, goes ahead and resubmits it in for going to print. And so that's how that works. So to answer your question, yes, this book comes out in LGSs either this week, it could be this Wednesday, or since it's Christmas, I guess it would be this Wednesday as opposed to next Wednesday. And so, the colors on it, don't even know if I have them in here. Probably not. I'm not that cool. Have it all ready to go, but anyways, the moral of the story is, yes, I have originals available, the traditional 11x17 inks. I have this particular cover available if you're a Spawn fan. But then I also wanted to show you guys this cover for a series called Little Red Ronin.
Oh wow!
Right. And so I don't know if you guys can see this well or not, but let me get this kind of centered here. So Raymond Gay, who I mentioned earlier, really, really talented guy that I've worked with for almost 4 years now on a lot of projects. And in fact, we have a number of new projects coming up and coming out in 2023 that we're working on, including a really cool cover for TMNT The Lost Years, #1, which is a tie-in to The Last Ronin, which we also got to work on a couple covers for. And so he works entirely digital. So these are actually digital pencils that you see here. And so there are no original pencils for me to ink over, even if I had wanted to. And so what ends up happening is he will send me the scan or the file, I guess, of digital pencils. And then I will take this, so take a good look at that, because I'm about to switch it to the inks to show you, even when it comes to digital pencils, myself as a traditional inker, I can still add a little extra to it. So there's that, and then that gets transitioned into that.
Oh wow, with all the shadowing and everything, yeah.
Yeah, just the little details and the hair and providing just some depth to the image like we were discussing earlier. And so this would be my inks over, where did the pencils go? So there you go. There's a good like quick side by side, so you can.
And then I was wondering what those X's were, and I guess it answered the question. That's where the shading is going to be, or the blacks are going to be at.
So a penciler will indicate where they want spot black with X's, and so then it's my job to go, okay, that tells me where they want the spot black to be, but not necessarily how they want it to be rendered. So, I can add these like tick lines or some feathering lines, or if we get really in here. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit here, so you can see all the little rendering of the hair and some of the other things going on in here. So the X's are there to tell me where the shadows are going to be, and Ray does a phenomenal job in the pencils kind of conveying that information to me. And so then I take that information, I go, all right, how can I make this, just take it to that next level, even though it's already fantastic, kind of like we were talking about earlier with the mansion analogy. And that's how I go about approaching any type of assignment that I'm given. Is if I don't think that I can add anything to the project or the piece, then why am I even doing it, right? And so the whole goal and objective is to be able to add that extra bit. And so for instance, both of those covers are available. They just happen to be two examples that I thought would be really nice to show you more, because one was digital pencils to traditional inks, and the other one was original pencils scanned and then done in traditional inks. And so two different processes, but you got to see the same type of attention to detail regardless of which variation it was. And so hopefully that came through here in the stream.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious, why is it when it's sent to you, you image it in the blue line? What does that do?
So great question. Why are you saying, like, why wouldn't I just print it onto like an 11x17 board in the regular grayscale that it already is?
Yeah.
And the easiest answer is because I can set my scanner when I go to scan the page back in to remove all the cyan levels during the scan. And so there's no, like, if I did it with the gray, I'd have to go back and digitally clean up like any of that residual gray that was coming through, because I'm not going to follow the pencils exactly, right? And so there's going to be elements that are different. There's going to be stuff that's still peeking through, and because it's digital in terms of the way that it's being transferred, there's no reason, there's no way for me to erase that traditionally, right?
Okay,
like it's still
gotcha.
page. So the only way to make it really easy for the colorist is to just have your scanner remove the cyan levels, which are all those blue tones, and it'll just come up with just the ink lines that I had on the original page. And so that way, the only thing that's showing up is the inks. nothing else.
Is this like an industry standard thing? Because I see a lot of people like inking on the blue lines.
Yeah, and again, it goes. Yeah, it goes. Well, there's two reasons for it. Okay, one, there's a lot of pencilers now that are penciling entirely digital, so there is no original to ink over in that particular case. And then for the guys that still work traditional, again, a lot of people just don't feel confident in the shipping services that we have here now,
Yeah.
and they don't want to ship an original piece of art that could potentially get lost or damaged. And then on top of that, you're waiting for the shipping time. So the Spawn cover. I'll give you guys a great example, and I don't think I've told this story because it is so new. So you guys get a little one, and I apologize if I'm putting you guys to sleep over here. I'm trying to be as exciting as I can, talking about
You're fine. I'm yawning because I'm genuinely tired, but I got so many like questions that actually interest me about like inking. So I'm yawning because I'm tired. I'm listening to you intently. Trust me.
Well, I'm just trying my best not to put everybody into a snooze fest, whether it's you guys or the guys viewing the content on the other side. I know we're like,
he's asking questions that I wanted to ask. I'm like, oh yeah, to explain this, like explain that, because there's a lot of things about inkers that we really do want to know. And it's like you guys don't get enough credit. You know, watching you, it's like in reality when we see the art, though it's the penciler who comes up with the idea, we see your inks. We see the blacks, you know, we see you tracing and putting the thick lines where they need to be. So in reality, it's like we're also seeing your art. So
we definitely, I think we do. We absolutely do a lot more than just trace what's there. I think, as you could see in the examples that I was showing, there's some interpretation that takes place, and so it's my job to interpret the lines that are on the page, and then however I interpret that the final inks is what gets colored over and ultimately goes to print on the book. And so a lot of the regular average comic book fan may not realize that. They may just assume that whatever they're seeing is you know, whatever the pencils were, and that was it. And in a way, it is. I mean, obviously, like I said earlier, they're already doing a great job at laying a fantastic foundation, and I've worked with some very wonderful and talented pencilers, especially Raymond. However, at the same time, you know, there are minute details that are being tweaked and transformed based off of how the inker is interpreting it. There's a really good example of that with the Inkwell Awards, and they do a yearly kind of charity thing where they'll send I can't remember how many of them, how many inkers they send it out to, but it's the exact same pencil page. Okay.
Oh wow.
And they'll get 40, 50 different inkers to do their interpretation of inks on that pencil page. And so everybody's working on the exact same pencils. And if you look at all 40 different pages, not a single one of them ends up looking exactly the same, because everybody has a different interpretation of how they would approach a certain thing, or a certain texture, or a certain type of line weight or effect, and nobody's ever going to be exactly the same. And I think that's the truly intriguing part about inking, is it can go so many different directions. The penciler is always going to have a certain style, a certain type of tone, and you instantly can recognize that penciler. For instance, if you see Jim Lee pencils or something, you already know just based off of the style that it's Jim Lee and it's not somebody else. But I can promise you that if there's 5 different inkers that approached the same Jim Lee pencils, they're not all going to look like Scott Williams.
No.
And so the interpretation and the way that the final product ends up coming about might be entirely different based off of who is inking those pencils. And so I think it's a really intriguing area. It's kind of like the glue that holds the two sides of the coin together between the colors and the initial pencils. And it's a really cool spot to be in, because you get to work with so many really fantastic people. But to go back to the little story that I was going to tell you earlier, in regards to the Spawn cover that you just saw, to talk to you about why things aren't shipped. Chris could have shipped me, Chris Campagna, that was the penciler on that. He could have shipped me the original pencil page because he did pencil that traditionally. However, we had at best 24 hours each to complete that cover. So he had, I think, 24 hours to pencil it. I had close to 24 hours or so to ink it, and the colorist had maybe 24 hours to color it. So there would have been absolutely no possible way for him to ship that, have it arrive to me, have enough time to ink the entire thing, send it to the colorist, so on and so forth. And so in cases like that, which have just a very, very tight timetable and deadline for, in this particular case, it was image, there's just no way to work all those logistics together that still function in a cohesive whole without you missing your deadline. And so, the worst sin you can commit in this industry is missing deadlines. No editor under the moon and sun wants to work with you if you're missing deadlines, if you're not turning stuff in a manner that they feel is representing their company in the best way. And so you want to have as much time available to you as you possibly can to complete those goals.
Jeremy, I wanted to ask you a question here in regards. It's alluding to the Jim Lee, Scott Williams thing that you were talking about. So I've seen pencils by Jim, like really quick sketches, and then I'll see Scott Williams ink on that, and he'll really put it to life, and it looks like a Jim Lee sketch. Now,
yeah, it's almost like Scott's doing finishes. That's so there's two forms of inking depending on who your penciler is and how tight or loose that they pencil. You can just be inking it by the book if you have already semi-tight to really tight pencils that you're working off of, because a lot of the information is already there. So there's certain pencilers that don't want you to interpret things. They want it to be done in a very specific
way. Yeah.
And so they are going to be pencilers that illustrate a lot tighter and have a lot more information than other ones. And so in that particular case, you're not really doing finishes, you're just cleaning up and trying to embellish in certain areas that you can to take it to that finish line. But then there's other pencilers that may be a lot looser. And so they might give you, a breakdown or a guide, or at least a foundation that you can work off of. The structure's all there, but maybe all the little feathering and tick marks and cross hatching and stuff is not all indicated. And because they know you're capable of doing it, right? And so in that particular case, on just taking a structure of a layout, you can do some finishes over that structure that is basically like the penciler, the inker interpreting that baseline structure there and taking it the whole rest of the way. And so there's two modes just depending on what penciler you're assigned to, because everybody's different. And so a lot of people ask me all the time, well, what would you prefer? Do you want to have more freedom? Being able to do things, however you're seeing them, or do you like it to be really tight? And I say all the time that I like it somewhere in the middle. I want to be able to play with certain things in certain areas. I also don't want to stare at it and question every single line on there. Like, is that a forearm or is that a tree? Or, I don't want to have to, truly, analyze the entire project in such a way that, I'm spending more time analyzing than I am actually doing my job of inking. So I like it to be somewhere in the middle. I don't want everything there, but I also don't want it to be so obtuse that I have no idea what I'm looking at the same time.
I think Luke has a great example. He bought a Jim Lee piece that was just strictly a building from a video game, or it's
that's right,
already sketched and ink. Is that right, Luke? Or
Yeah, Jim and Scott worked on a video game. It's just buildings, 2 building pages. I thought it was cool.
It was definitely a piece
I mean,
of work.
skyscrapers can be time consuming. Depending on what kind of buildings they are, you never know. It could be kind of a tedious endeavor. It just depends on what it is.
Jeremy, for some of our, for some of the people out there who are genuinely interested in inking, can you share with us some of the tools that you do use for inking these projects? Like, what do you use?
Yeah, so let's see here, as I have them nearby. All right, so everybody might know what this is. This is a crow quill, okay? And so you dip it into like an ink well, right? And then that, provides a certain amount of flex depending on how much pressure you're applying, because there's a little reservoir of ink that basically sits into this little socket here, and then that creates kind of the tighter lines. Doesn't give you as much flex or flexibility as a brush does. So if it's a brush, let's see if I've got one lying around somewhere here.
See, I was expecting to see like a feather out of that thing too. Like, I was just huge, just like, I'm going to sign my signature on this.
Don't get me wrong. So I like. Here you go. So there's two different kinds. You can go with the Raphael brush. This is I think a number 2. But I like using these Windsor Series 7s. I don't know if people can see that or not. But it's essentially a Windsor brush, Windsor Newton. It's a Series 7, and it uses a Kolinsky hair tip, which is just a real sable hair brush, and it produces a more consistent line and gives you a lot cleaner of an outcome. So brushes and quills are the bread and butter, but if I really need to get something really tiny, like you saw when I zoomed in on like the werewolf's face there, and just those like little tick lines or what have you, I'll use a Copic multi-liner like 0.03. Like, I think it's the smallest version that they make, and it's just to get things that I can't necessarily get as thin or small of a line with on a crow quill.
You probably have a steady hand. You could probably do some pinstriping on cars.
The funny thing is, a lot of people ask, do you do tattoos? Do you do, like I've heard it all, and it's I think everybody, it's a different type of medium, right? And so the technique that's necessary to work on that medium is something that you can't just like float into in one day. So with tattoos, for instance, like, yes, I understand how the line structure would work or where the shading should be, but that's a surface that's moving. Skin isn't, a piece of paper I can rotate, turn, do whatever I need to do. On flesh, that's a completely different ball game. So while I may know the technique needed to do that particular thing, I don't have the experience to know, like how something's going to react. That's a moving, canvas. Same thing with like pinstriping. With pinstriping, I watch a lot of the videos. I like pinstriping. I see guys, they always have like the pinky out, and they're like running. They'll have the guide line and the guide hand as they're like going, and it's a completely different technique. I would never get into that pose, working on a page over here. It's just a completely different ball game. And on top of that, I'm working at I wouldn't say quite a 45 degree, but at an angle pitch on the drafting table that I have. So it's just a different way of working. And so while the techniques may translate, the way it's done is different, and it would require actual time, just like anything else, and practice to really get good at it. I don't think it's just something that you can fall right into.
Now, do you have one of those fancy drafting tables where the table itself is illuminated so that the light goes up instead of having like the light from above you go down? Like, are you fancy like that?
No. In fact, I've got like a real jank setup right now with like multiple clamp-on lights that are all like taped in certain ways and stuff, so that shadows aren't being cast in the way that like I'm right-handed, so I really like my light to be cast in a certain direction so that I can see all those like really delicate lines to make sure that I'm really keeping it consistent. And so if I have a cast shadow, on the area that I'm working, it just really messes with my eyes. And so I have a really weird setup because I have all the lights like kind of rigged together for the exact way that I work. And so even at shows, I don't really do any type of inking at events because I'm not very good at working flat, and two, if the lighting at an event could be all over the place, so
Right.
That's true.
I
That's
thought
true.
about
it's just
that.
not ideal. And so, needless to say, that's my approach. But everybody's different. Some guys can work almost in pitch dark. I've seen like I don't even know how they do it. It looks like they're in the bat cave or something, and on a flat, just generic table or what have you. And I'm like, I don't know how your back handles it, but Lord knows I couldn't do it. So I guess I'm a little bit more of a prima donna in that regard.
Are you like on social media at all? Let me say, hold on, let me ask you this again. Have you ever put like any videos of you inking your projects on social media? Because I see a lot of that popping up on like my TikTok nowadays, where I see people actually inking, and that's just a thing, and it looks really cool to me. Have you ever thought about doing something like that?
So true story, going back to the whole dinosaur element that I am, I don't even have a TikTok. I don't have that. I don't have the only two things I've got is my or three things I guess is my own website, Instagram, and Facebook, and that's already a lot for me. Trying to with the way
But like
my
trying to
lighting
record
rig is,
yourself like
yeah,
inking.
trying to like find a way to fit a camera somewhere in there and it also work with the setup. I don't know how it would work. So no, I haven't done it. But what I do like to do, for anybody that's out there that wants to follow the work or kind of see the process, I do snap a lot of work in progress shots. And sometimes I do a lot of side by sides too, where I show like say I'm working on an arm of a character, right? And I just want to highlight what I did to the pencils of that arm. I'll show the original before inks of the pencils of that, and then I'll side by side it, like split it in the little Instagram grid thing or whatever, and I'll have the inks on the other side of it. And so people can see side by side how that work in progress is done and what my approach was to do it. And so I post a lot of work in progress shots, just so people can kind of see how it works in that regard without a video, since I'm not a video. In fact, doing this alone is, I was trying to figure out how to get the lighting and everything in here working. I was like, I got a laptop. Does this camera even work? I never use this thing. So, I was just trying to get any type of technology to work for me is, thank goodness.
Look, we'll help you out. We're now that we're friends, we'll help you out. We'll recommend. We can recommend some things here to help enhance whatever you need to on the tech side. I'm kind of the tech guy on this side, so I'll help you out.
Christmas miracle that we were able to get through an hour so that it's something filling.
You did good.
Well, I know it's late where you're at. We don't want to take too much of your time. Luke, did you have
20 minutes or so? There was me just I don't know, hearing white noise. So whatever you guys need to get to. I'm sure you can edit this whenever it goes up on the YouTube.
No, it's live.
It's
live.
live.
There's no
We're
editing.
live, yeah.
I'm sorry for anybody watching. This is what you get. This is the best I got. I'm wearing a Captain America holiday shirt. That's what you're gonna get.
Luke, did you want to ask Jeremy anything before we end the show?
I'm just still bummed that Cowboy Bebop was axed over a cheekbone.
Yeah, well, hey, you're not the only one bummed. Like I said, I missed an event that I could have seen a lot of really.
Did you at least get paid for your work?
I did get my page rate for the inks.
Okay.
And then, believe it or not, I guess I don't know, interesting, Cowboy Bebop. But there was at one of the events I did in Pensacola, Florida, Pensacon. One of the actors was attending the show that played
Spike.
no, not Spike.
Vicious.
Why am I?
The big black dude.
Yes, but he signed the original because
Oh, wow.
he liked it so much. Because remember, I said earlier, they all got to see it because they had to approve their likenesses.
Mhm.
And so at that show, he ended up signing the original art, and it ended up. I never hang on to anything in my personal. In fact, if you ever came and visited or whatever, you'd see there's not a single piece of my own art that I've worked on, or inks or anything, hung up anywhere in here. I don't like looking at anything that I've worked on. I like being everybody else's content who I follow and enjoy. And so I've got a plethora of everybody else's work around me to keep me inspired. And so, needless to say, that original for the Cowboy Bebop ended up going to a private collector that was really infatuated by the image and dug the story, and it had the actor's signature on it as well. So that guy made out like a bandit. But it's just a bummer. Never saw print.
Out of all of that you said, all I heard was if you guys come over. So that just tells me that we're invited for a barbecue wherever you live. So I'm very happy that you publicly invited us to your home, Jeremy. Thank you.
I'm in downtown in the art district. That's as close of a direction as I can give anybody. Yeah, the door's always open.
You just got to find it, right?
Yeah, you gotta find it, but it's there. You just gotta find it. No, I'm like a hobbit. I tell people all the time I like to be in my hobbit hole. I don't really like to go out because I'm always out traveling for the events. So the last thing I want to do is then come back and go right back out to doing other things. So with me doing on average, 20, 25 plus shows a year, that's half of my year spent traveling. So when I'm here, I like to be just like huddled in and locked in. So I invite people over all the time. I'm like, you can come here. I'm not going anywhere, but you guys can absolutely come here.
Well, we got to find where he's at for next year, fellas. We're going to go over to Jeremy's house for the 49ers Seahawk game, and we'll probably celebrate over there for that. How about that?
I think we'll be in the playoffs well before then.
Yes, exactly. I'm predicting something big, but I don't want to jinx it. I just have I have a lot of confidence in my team right now, and our team. Jeremy's a friend of the show now, and we share teams now. So Jeremy's a Niner fan, just like some of us, the cool ones. AJ,
sure. Well, Jeremy, I know that you've got a Facebook, you got a website, you got an Instagram. If people want to meet up,
it's super easy. So if you guys can remember my name, down there.
Yeah.
And you just add the word ink, like tattoo ink, or like all the things we've been discussing today. Ink, not incorporated, but INK. It's just Jeremy Clark Inc. That's Facebook, that's Instagram. It's jeremyclarkink.com if you want the website. Super easy. It's all synergized.
Red, you have a microphone. Ask him directly. Don't post it in the chat. Ask him.
I don't want to interrupt. Our commission's open.
So commissions have been closed for almost 2 years now.
Oh wow!
It's because I typically am working. You caught me at a great time because December is like my month of Christmas celebration. Christmas is my favorite holiday, and so I spend the entire month of December not attending any signings, doing any shows, which is why I wasn't in LA this year. I was asked if I wanted to go, but it was in December, so no.
You got lucky. Oh my god!
Is like I turn into Kris Kringle over here. I'm like holiday cheer for the whole month, and it's my time to kind of recharge my batteries.
I love it.
So For me, the other 11 months of the year is just spent doing book deadlines and everything else. And so I usually average 3 to 4 covers a month on average, and that's with me doing almost 2 show guest appearances somewhere in the United States each month as well. So between the traveling and those book deadlines, I don't typically, unless it's really enticing, take any type of commission. Just because I don't want people having to wait,
Right.
years to get something back that they had potentially purchased much sooner. And I had and still have a couple that are on the docket and on the books for any of you that are watching. I haven't forgotten you, the couple that I have left. But the reason why I also don't take any more is because it wouldn't be fair to the people that have already been waiting as long as they have. So it's just I say it all the time at the events. I wouldn't be on the side of the table that I'm on if I didn't have the support from the other side of the table, and I truly mean that. So I never want somebody to feel as if they're not being treated equally when it comes to the time that I'm investing in their work.
All right. And one final thing. What cons will you be attending that the people can meet you at?
So I know for sure I will be in Portland coming up.
Oh, nice.
I think that's February for Fan Expo. Yeah. So I will be there because I just got confirmation a couple weeks ago from Kevin Boyd, who runs the guest relations for the artist side over there at Fan Expo. So I know I will be there. I'm not attending New Orleans this year. I did it last year. That's in January, but I am going to be doing that as well as Atlanta Comic-Con. I just got confirmation actually a few hours before I came on here.
Nice.
That I will be at that event the week after Portland. So same month, same stuff. And so I'll put out a whole list. I think I've got 18 or 19 booked so far for next year. However, that number always tends to creep up a little higher. So hopefully I'll be in wherever the neck of the woods is that you guys that are watching are at, and you can come see me at one of those events, because I have both the original art portfolio as well as a print portfolio, and I bring a ton of books because I'm a real proponent of trying to push the reading aspect of it and really engaging in the actual books, because that's what it's all about. So I have hopefully a little bit of everything for everybody.
Awesome,
and we got
man.
a chance. Red, Luke, and I got a chance to actually take a look at his portfolio at Fan Expo San Francisco. Fantastic work, you guys. If you guys do get a chance to see Jeremy, go out, show him some love. He's got some great work out there. And you're going to be actually out in Luke's neck of the woods then with that Fan Expo, because Luke's out there close to Portland.
Yeah, I gotta bring a couple things that we had discussed the last time, but they'll be. I won't spill the beans on what they are on here. But he knows what I'm talking about.
It's a private collector matter.
Well, it's just there might be a few new things in there that he didn't see before.
You have to watch the shit.
So yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I'm always working on new content. I just confirmed that I'm going to be working on 2 covers with Ray. Actually, I just spoke with him on the phone earlier today for the couple projects that Garrett Gunn wrote, and he wrote the Good Boy book. That's the kind of reverse John Wick, and a number of other projects, and so that'll be cool. And then we've got the TMNT Lost Years cover dropping in January, which you can go pre-order now. I'm sure it's somewhere on either of our pages. And we just had the Gargoyles #1 cover drop last week, I believe, came out, and a couple other cool juicy things like the Spawn Deadliest Bouquet #5 comes out next week, and there's always something, at least one thing, but usually more, dropping every single month that you guys can find, and hopefully appeals to you.
All right.
Yeah, that Gargoyles #1, it kind of exploded. A lot of people are they just scooped it up over the last couple of weeks. Just being able to see this childhood cartoon come back to life and come back in comic form, I thought it was really cool. It was a surprise to me. I didn't even know that this thing was coming back. So it's really dope that you got your hands on this one.
Yeah, it was a really fun process to work on. I got to ink over penciler Eric Henson, who I actually worked on a couple covers in the past with. We did a cover for issue 106 of TMNT, as well as issue 1 cover for Scott Snyder's Undiscovered Country, if you remember that series.
Oh yeah.
The Image, and there it is. We also worked on a cover for issue 1 of Mark Millar's Prodigy. I don't know if you have the image for that, but there's a number of pencilers that I've worked with, and we tend to kind of always float back and work on more and more things together sometime throughout each year. And so, it's usually never just one guy that gets all the pitches, right? It's you spread it around, and I just try to take as many as I can, because I truly enjoy doing this job and getting to work with all these really talented folks and producing things that hopefully everybody will enjoy.
Right. Well, thank you again, Jeremy, for coming on. We definitely want to have you back, man. So maybe you got another free time next year. Please come back on, sir.
Next year?
Yeah, absolutely. What is this speed round thing that I see over here?
Oh, typically I ask rapid fire questions, but man, you've given us so much tonight. A lot of really good information. A lot of
let me get some sleep. How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you?
It's tomorrow over there, right? I mean, it's already like you're living in the future. You should.
Yeah, I'm already in a different day. What's going on?
We'll leave it for next time, though. Next time we are going to be asking questions. I'm going to ask you questions about which military base had the best food. Are you a beer drinker? Whenever you put on your pants, you put it on right or left.
It's terrible on every single one. But the beer question, I can totally take that at a longer time.
We'll talk beer and we'll talk Niners next time, Jeremy.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you, man. And for those tuning in, thank you for coming on the show. And we'll see you all next week. Peace out.
Reading is fundamental.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Sealess Villains podcast, your cultivators of the comic culture. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and email us at sealessvillains@gmail.com. You can also leave us a voicemail or text us at 209-975-7597. Be sure to join Luke Week's Facebook group, Rare Keys and First Appearance Comics. And you can follow us on our 2 Instagram accounts, Sealess Villains and Sealess Villains Podcast. Lastly, follow the villains on their separate IG accounts, at Luke Weeks, at C-List Villainous Red, at C-List E-Man, and I am at AJ the Comic Collector. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all